Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kingdom Dynamics. This is Dr. Bill with World Bible School Media, and welcome to the show. Good to see Dr. Faye, my wife, watching, and good to see others that are joining in. Please click like and click share as soon as you can. Everybody that's watching and seeing this right now, and we appreciate it so very much. Well, tonight, back with me, a couple of weeks ago, we did not get finished, is Bishop Robin Michael Beach. And good evening, my brother. How are you?
Hey, sir, how are you doing tonight? I'm doing just fine and well.
Yes.
Been having some tremendous times here, and things are going really good. So we're excited about what's going on, and that's a honor and an excitement. I'm excited to be here with you tonight. It's been a while since we've been able to kind of get together like this.
Yeah. And we've got a Friday series coming up soon, probably in about 4 weeks. And
It's about a month now. Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm excited about that. Well, we're back talking about Abba's love dream. And we didn't quite get finished, so we want to get into this tonight. So when we talk about Abba's love dream, of course, the part we're getting to that we're kind of where we left off, the love dream, the intensity of eternity. Real quickly, let me just throw up James 1:18. Even if we saw it last time, it says this in the New English translation. Uh, by his sovereign plan, he gave us birth through the message of truth. I love that right there. The statement you made on Facebook just this evening, that is exactly a verse that would go with that. By his sovereign plan, he gave us birth through the message of truth, that we would be a kind of first fruits of all he created. When I think about being birthed, he gave birth through the message of truth. I think about as Holy Spirit speaks truth into us. Remember, Jesus said that one of the reasons Holy Spirit was going to manifest is that he would bring us into all truth. And to me, all truth excludes nothing but the truth and everything that has to do with the revelation of Father's heart. So um, take us into this tonight. And what are we talking about when we're talking about Abba's love dream? Share with us.
Well, we had kind of started moving into, we had talked about the relevance of the light source and how the Father's resolve. This is what kind of just a quick blurb on what we did when we
Yes,
ended
yes.
the last couple of weeks ago was the Father's resolve stands in total contrast to the perverted passions of sin or to the perverted passions of mistaken identity, returning or claiming its illegitimate parenthood of mankind. According to James 1 2 and 12 through 16, mistaken identity, what we know as sin, had tried to create and shape an image of mankind that was contrary, Dr. Bill. There was a contradiction. But we saw in the creative relevance of the light source that as the Father of lights, every good gift, good and perfect gift, comes down from the Father of lights. So we see in that verse, Dr. Bill, that as a father, that kind always produces kind, and God is light. So we are the light that emanates from Him. The light that emanates from the Father is those who He has birthed, who is of His kind, who is
Mhm.
of love's kind. And so we begin to talk about how that with Him there's no distortion, there's no shadow or shifting or no obstruction. There's nothing to intercept that light, because which means that there's no hint of any hidden agenda. There is nothing unwavering in his personality when it comes to his thought, his sentiment, and his opinion toward those who are of his kind, or what we would say his children. His
Mhm.
children. There is no shadow of turning. There is no partiality
Yes.
with our Father. There is no, he is not capricious. He is not hiding behind a veil of conspicuousness that is that he's wearing as a mask to try to put on a good face in front of us, but carry evil intentions behind us.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in him that is desirous of our destruction. He is, and the King James would have said that he doesn't desire that any should perish, but that all should come to a new way of thinking, as we know, repentance, being immersed into a new mind, the mind of
Yes.
Christ. And so, what we're talking about now and what we begin to move into is that intensity of that desire, because it's the intensity of that desire that was existent, that was, and let me use a big word here, Dr. Bill, that was consubstantial with the existential reality of theos, God, from eternity past, or what we would call just simply from eternity. We use eternity past and eternity future just to help people comprehend, but eternity is really just eternity. And
Yes, it
so,
is.
right. So, I mean, but in eternity, there is uh, a solidity, there is a foundational reality that love had a passionate, and not just had a passionate desire, but love is a passionate dream. And we are the fulfillment of that in the eyes of our Abba. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, is the intensity of that desire in the fulfillment of what we know as creation and what we know is in the Christ, that we will see the absolute liberation of the entirety of the cosmos as the
Yes.
sons and the daughters of God are manifested.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about eternity. Eternity has no beginning. It has no end. Um, there are the traditional points of view, but we rarely live by the traditional points of view and live more um, of what we realize is unending for God. You know, one of the things about God is God lives in eternity. That's one side of creation. The other side of creation is time, and that's where mankind often lives in a formulated chronological time frame of everything has its place and is going to have its place and has had its place. But God, I think lives in a now moment. And one of the things I love about the Lord is such as Ephesians 1:4 that says that He sees us through His eyes as holy. When we talk about the
Yes.
eyes of our understanding, we're also not talking about just what we see, but we're talking about what we think. We're talking about what we understand. And that's where our Father is. He understands His creation. The good, bad, and the ugly, He understands His creation. Where we fall short is we sometimes fail to, as you've put it, we fail to see into this love dream that Abba has about his creation. And, that's what I appreciate about Father. He doesn't see one any different than he does another. You know, years ago, we had the triangle where we had the head of the church, we had the elders, we had et cetera, et cetera. We ended up with this huge triangle. Then they reversed that and put the smaller part at the bottom, kind of like a reverse humility type of thing. And what my wife and I did is we came up with the concept of that everybody is on one line. But the thing about that one line is we may look at everybody on the same level, but we all still have different levels of responsibility on that same line. And that's the only difference. Other than that, our Father looks at his kids the same. He loves his kids the same. And I just have a profound admiration of my Father, how he sees his creation.
Yes.
And I don't want to get off track here, but I just this verse, his sovereign plan, he gave us birth through the message of truth. And I remember reading in the book of Isaiah, in the translated in the Hebrew language, that Father says that we were birthed forth from the very womb of God. And this is
Amen.
pointing, this is a contextual clue that points back to Genesis 1:1. And and however we got here in the natural sense is a whole different story. But thank God he birthed us forth from his own abdomen, from his own womb. And so he couldn't help but see his creation the same in his eyes. So and I was reading through some of these statements. I love some of these. I'm not going to get into any of these. I'm going to let you do that. But even when he talks about this writing talks about Josephus's view on things, and so yeah, take us wherever you want to, and I'm going to enjoy this.
I think that the Lord's walking us into, Dr. Bill, a a new plane, an elevated. The Lord keeps taking me back to the Psalms of Ascents, which is, for those of you that are not familiar with that, you're probably familiar with it. You just might not realize that it's Psalms 120 through Psalms 134. And it's 15 Psalms. And these Psalms were the Psalms that they sang when the caravans were going up to Jerusalem during the three major feasts. But it also represents the Psalms that they would sing. There was 15 steps, Dr. Bill, that
Mm-hmm.
Solomon, when he ascended into the temple, that there were 15 steps that he would step up. And he would, at every step, they would sing one of these Psalms of Ascents.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Illumination translation, which is what I'm doing, that those Psalms of Ascents, I translate that very word right there is songs that entwine us on the journey to the elevated station.
Right.
That journey to the elevated station is a deeper level of consciousness, a deeper level of awareness, a deeper level of revelation in our interior world concerning the thought, sentiment, and opinion that Abba has toward us. And we're learning by way of revelation as we move through these states and move into this very, very distinct place called sonship, this very distinct place called eye to eye, face to face. There's many different aspects that I can set there. Yes, go ahead.
If I might just interject, just real quickly, 3 points out of the Psalms of Ascent. He begins in Psalm 120, a cry of deliverance for deceitful
Yes,
tongues and a longing for peace. Somewhere in the middle, he talks about Psalm 125, an affirmation of God's protection over those who trust in Him. And he ends with, in Psalm 134, a call to, and I don't remember the exact numbers you used, I just pulled this up, a call to bless the Lord and a closing blessing from the Lord. And I see so much about celebration and so much about praise and so much about reflection. I just thought I thought it, and thanksgiving. I just thought it was really beautiful for you to bring that up.
yes, yeah. It has such a great thematic. I'm hoping my microphone's hearing the word right. Thematic, THEM. It
Yeah.
has such tremendous thematic content in that what the love dream of Abba was always has always been walking us into is what I call the rule of mutuality. We love him because he first loved us.
Hmm.
So the elevated station that he is walking us continually to is the consciousness and awareness of the absoluteness, the height, the breadth, the depth, the love, to know the love of Christ, that surpasses knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we supposed to know something, Dr. Bill, that we can't know? To know the love of God that surpasses, there's only one way and there's only one answer to that, and it's to understand and know that love in an experiential manner. It's to know
Yeah.
it consciously in the depth of our interior world, not only as a theoretical content, not only as an ideological hope, but as an eternal present reality
Yes, beyond
within
the
the
human
context of our
understanding.
life.
Is beyond the human
Yes,
understanding. Yeah.
yeah, that's beyond human understanding. That reaches into the incomprehensibility of eternity.
Yes.
But it's in that point of intensity right here that James is revealing to us as the doorway into that.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes a very distinct statement here. In James 1:18, the very first thing he says is, by his sovereign plan. By his sovereign plan. It's easy to jump right over the top of that because we see such magnificent, once again, thematic content in this of gave us birth, the message of truth,
Mm-hmm.
first fruits of all he created. All of that is exciting, but let me reveal the doorway into that experiential reality so that we can absolutely learn to see it for what it is and walk into it once again in an experiential manner, not simply theoretical or ideological, that it can literally become, Dr. Bill, and I'm using this, the anthropological reality of our lives, that it can become what we live and experience, or the phenomenology. In other words, the what we experience. It's
Mm-hmm.
more than just theory. It is encounter. It is experience. It is knowing beyond knowing. It's knowing beyond the simple comprehension of mental assent. And that
Yeah.
word right there, Dr. Bill, in the Greek is G1014. And that word is pronounced boulomai. That M-A-I on the end of it, it sounds like A-H-E-E, boulomai. And that word comes across in a very, very distinct manner. Now, I had to really get down to the source of this, Dr. Bill. I
Mm-hmm.
had to do some distinct studying, and not in biblical Koine Greek, but in actual classical Greek from
Okay.
the time of Homer, Socrates, Herodotus, some of these guys that were writers of classical Greek, to get a picture of what James was actually trying to get across here. And so, first of all, we have to distinguish this word boulomai from the word Philo. Uh, the word boulomai is a more rational word, as distinct from more impulsive desire.
Mm-hmm.
Philo refers to a resolution of spirit. So here's the way that I describe it, Dr. Bill. In the depth of the very being of God, there was a desire, a hunger, and the will of God, the Philo, that was the boulomai, the Philo of God, the ethilo of God, found that desire and then created a logical, computative rationale how to see that desire fulfilled and pushed it forth. So the difference in boulomai and ethelo is that one, boulomai, refers to a resolution that is deep within the spirit. Or excuse me, Othello refers to the resolution of the spirit, but the boulomai refers to a deep inclination that's in the soul that shapes the ethelo. So the belomai was actually considered to be the depth. When the Apostle James wrote this, it's like saying that river that flows out of the throne, Dr. Bill,
Mm-hmm.
the rivers that flow from the depth of God out of your innermost being will flow
Yes.
rivers of living water. That
Yes.
is the comparative or comparative ideology that gives us a sense of the Beloma. Out of the very depth of the inner being of Abba, he had an idea. He had something that began to give him inclination to think. The inclination of his soul was to, there is something here that I have to put image to. There's a desire here that I have to give content to, that I have to give attention to, as a master craftsman would shape something. He said that desire birthed in him an inclination of his soul. So then it also means to prefer. Othello means to, it suggests the volition. It suggests the outer court of the will to see this thing come to being. And that's in the original sense. In the LXX, though, in the Septuagint, Dr. Bill,
Mm-hmm.
Belomai is very much more common than Ethelo, but it's got, like I said, once again, a slightly different sense. It means a deep will, a resolve, a desire, a want to purpose, to seek, and it even means to be inclined. So that was the belomai of God when he talks about that the sovereign plan, the belomai that was that brought us forth, that gave us birth by the word of truth. God is referring and saying that you were born in the depth of my very being. Everything that I am, you were encapsulated in. You were embraced in the very center and reality of the Godhead.
Right.
So, how could we ever be thought of as anything other than beloved? How could we ever be referred to, even if we wounded him? How could we ever be looked at as nothing more than garbage ready for a heap of fire or trash somewhere?
Yeah. 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 No. No. And that's the thing is people talk about what we do to God and how that affects Him, but it doesn't. There's nothing you can do. It's just like Jesus. Jesus didn't stop his journey in the first century to the cross and after, just because of what mankind did to him in their ignorance. And that's the same thing with the story. That is, no matter where you are in your journey, even if you're, so to speak, with your verbiage, slapping God in the face, as it were, doesn't affect him, doesn't phase him. He loves you
Right.
unconditionally, and for it to be unconditional, it has to be that way. He cannot
Yes.
be any other way but who he is.
Yes.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
This last point that I had right here before we move on to actually the intensity of his desire
Hmm.
is that, and you brought it up a little while ago.
Yes.
I found this fascinating. I would like to do a lot longer on this, but our time's limited. Josephus wrote about this. I
Hmm.
find it fascinating that a non-biblical writer who was simply a historian and a scribe, such as Josephus, wrote about this Bulomai. And when he talked about it in such a manner of almost what we would say a wish, like a dream,
Hmm.
like a almost like someone, Dr. Bill, who would just go, man, if I could just win that lottery, if I could, man, I wish I could just get this, or man, I wish I could, almost like a dream in the context of the classic writing of just simply, once again, like I said, a non biblical writer.
Hmm.
It's connected with God's will, and it's much more in front of Philo, which Philo is friendship, where we get friendship from,
Hmm.
which is very, very important word. Don't get me wrong. It's a very, very important word. But this word is to the fore of it. It begins. It's deeper. It goes deeper into the nature of God, the nature and the character of God. And it's definitely and most assuredly connected to a goal that was formed, or a what we would call today a dream.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when I read after Josephus, he maintained his unbiased opinion when it comes to being a historian in his writings. But I run into this all the time that he actually believed in Jesus as the Messiah. Um, but you know, I mean, the biggest argument against Josephus has been that he is a non-believer. And I don't find that to be true. I find that with a lot of people, they believed in Jesus. They just didn't come out and just make that their main message. But he's an interesting guy. He's my favorite historian to read after.
Yeah, I love reading Josephus, and I love, of course, there's definitely what I would call some religious prejudice, but I find Eusebius a very interesting read when it comes to historic. Eusebius was very much a very distinctly a historian. Also,
There's some
he
great
was,
historians. Yeah.
yeah, he was much more distinctly a believer. I mean, he was literally a church father, but it was some fascinating stuff. So, moving on, let's talk about the intensity of his desire. Then, according to the context of the language. Um, so, when we speak about this, then in the context of this simple word,
Hmm.
that's what I find so fascinating, Bill, is the depth of revelation that lies in this one simple word that for years and years and years we just gave a cursory glance to and jumped right over the top of it. And it has such an important place in these writings.
Hmm. Hmm.
This word suggests that Abba's motivation then is, was, and always will be in his unchangeable nature, that this is the propelling agent for his will.
Hmm.
Boulomai is what pushes his will to the forefront. His will is what forms word. His will, which is abstract outside of language in simple thought, becomes vocal and verbal. In his creative power, he can literally assimilate and create a synergistic flow from boulomai to Philo into what we would say logos, which becomes logos or word. So when we talk about this desire, we're talking about a desire, literally, Dr. Bill, that is so fiery and so potent that it propels into action. We're really then diving into the depth of the heart of God to lean our ear into his chest
Yes.
and to hear his heartbeat,
Yes.
to hear and to know the very heartbeat of Abba that is the pulse of all creation.
Yeah.
That's where this is going, man.
You call it diving into the heart of motivation.
Yes.
Awesome.
diving into the heart of his motivation.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think one of the things that Abba's walking us into right now so distinctly, Dr. Bill, and I can't wait to release this. I'm going to give a shameless plug here. And I hope that I can get this in the hands of as many people as possible. But I'm going to be coming out with a writing in a book this year called The Art of His Heartbeat, that's going to be dealing with this very distinctly. Because the language of God, Dr. Bill, is not a learned phonetic language. The language of God is a heartbeat. It is a cadence. It is a rhythm. It is a breath. And this, once again, I can't get across enough that this is a passionate desire that is the propelling agent. I'm going to repeat myself, that propels into action. It's the heart of motivation. It's what brings about the reality, the existential reality of the present truth that we know of as Abba.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was reading a post Dr. Fay made about that English only has one word for love, but the Greek has 6 words, and she's done a study on those and says they're all important. And I keep thinking about her book on the heartbeat of the Master, God's unconditional love, and you know it's easy when we started World Bible School University based on the principle of God's unconditional love for his creation, it's easier to say that than it is to practice that. But I want everybody
Yes.
to know that for Father, that's easy. That's his heartbeat. That's his motivation. That's his thought processing is unconditional love. And for us, we sometimes practice at it, trying to get it down. But yeah, it's so powerful. The propelling agent for His will, and I'm pulling some statements here, and then we're really diving into the heart of motivation. So powerful.
Yeah. As we go on in this too, I want to. I'll continue with the next thought of this. Is,
Yes.
as we've stated here, we've stated the this determining fiery passion, but I think it's important that we note here that this is not uh, just what we would consider an everyday want or just some basic need. This is not even a need of like, I'm hungry, I think I ought to get something to eat. This is something that goes way, way deeper than that. It's
Oh
This
yeah.
is the kind of desire that is all consuming. It's powerful enough to push that the one who carries this desire. It's powerful. And we're talking about Abba now. We're talking about God, the Father. This desire was powerful enough to push him into achieving something extraordinary, something that we know of that would be what would be the transporter of his likeness and image. This is the power of this will, that it didn't just sit on its laurels and go, boy, I sure wish that would happen. It
Mm-hmm.
propelled him into action. Faith without works is dead. That's a fact. We can try to dance around that all day long, but there's a very, very definite meaning in that. That the exterior subjective existential reality of faith is always going to be seen in our motivation, our action, our lives, our loves, all of those things. So, one of the examples that I give here, Dr. Bill, is that imagine the kind of passion that an inventor has when they cannot stop until their idea comes to life, or how an athlete feels when chasing a gold medal. Nothing can stop them. It is this magnetic pull that we're talking about here that is so electrifying and unstoppable that this creates this deep inner urge, once again, that propels the Father to act, to achieve, and then watch this, complete,
Mm-hmm.
to finish what he started.
Mm-hmm.
To finish what he started. What sets this type of desire then apart is its ability to transform, Dr. Bill, his thought into seen action. To be the agent that transforms his thought into action. Once again, this is not just simply a passive wishing or daydreaming. It's a bold, resolute push from deep within that says, go on, make it happen. It's an energy, as I noted here, that feeds on itself, growing with each step forward towards the goal. It sustains its momentum with a blend of excitement and relentless determination.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we see accomplished, that starts in the middle of without form, void, chaos, darkness on the face of the waters, going from that to the Tav of 131, that he saw what he had done and rested because it was very, very good.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing we need to understand about Genesis 1 early on is literally showing us the development stages of like you would see a fetus developing and maybe even a time in an incubator continuing the process of development. As we watch, as you and I have talked about, that we didn't actually start till day 7. We started in rest. The others, it's a complete explanation, especially the Hebrew language is so beautiful, of everything that God did in eternity past to cause day 7 to manifest. And that's it. But anyway, I don't want to keep you from getting to the next part. This is so interesting.
So, point 3 here then, that when I was writing this out, and I spent days, this is not something that I just sat down one morning and come up with. I spent days and days and days just leaning into this, really, really almost with a almost with that below my E myself when it was birthed in me. I'm like, I'm going to see this through. And the next point that God revealed to me, that the Father revealed to me, was about how that sovereignty gives expression to the uniqueness of his intention as being solely his and not subject to another. Sovereignty gives expression to the uniqueness of his intention as being solely his, not subject to another. What does that mean, Dr. Bill, for us today? First of all, it means this, that sovereignty calls into the attention the idea that there is no other who carries a greater weight of authority. Sovereignty gives expression to the uniqueness of his intention. What he wants us to know out of that statement, Dr. Bill, is that love birthed you. Love is present with you, and love will forever sustain you. That's what he's coming from when he's talking about that there is no shadow of turning.
Mm-hmm.
There is no hidden agenda here.
Mm-hmm.
That the desire that birthed us, that brought us into being, was not just simply a momentary desire, Dr. Bill. This was not something that just happened for a few
Oh yeah.
minutes at some spot in what we know of as eternity. This was not a moment captured in a time lapse. This was and is and always will be the reality of his nature, who he is.
Yes.
So the very same love dream that birthed us, that very same passionate desire that birthed us, is the very same boulomai that holds us now. It's the very same boulomai that carries us into the the stages of eternity, the ages of ages. It's
Hmm.
the very same thing. Love is sovereign. It's spontaneous. You can't make me love or not love something. Now, I can tell you, I could be false with you. I could masquerade and smile and go, oh, I love that's, yeah, that's so great. That's
Hmm.
so good. I could do that. But love will forever push me closer. It will forever cause me to reach out to the object that is the center of my attention. And
Yes.
being birthed out of the centrality of the will of God means that we never leave the gaze of God. We are never distant from his heart, in other words. There has never been a barrier put up in the heart of God that said, I'm locking you out.
Right. Right. Because
So then
love is never condescending, but Father's love is on purpose. It's deliberate. It's affirmative,
yes,
and always has a purpose and a motive behind it.
always has a purpose and always has a motive. As I stated here, love is sovereign, it's spontaneous, it answers to no other. And at the same
Right.
time, it gives preference to the notion that without another, it cannot be known or expressed. I find that fascinating, Dr. Bill.
Yes, that's good.
Love, let me say that again, it's spontaneous, it answers to no other, but at that very time that we look at it and go, it's spontaneous, sovereign, it answers to no other. In that very moment, it also gives us a preference and a revelation to the notion that, whoa, hold on. Without another, love can't be known. How could love be known if it was internalized in the centrality of Elohim?
Hmm.
How could it be known? How could it be shared? How could it be returned? How could it be returned? And the answer is it couldn't be.
Hmm.
So the very fact that God is love proves the very fact and gives preference to the notion that there had to be another. That gives preference to the innate and inherent boulomai, or love dream, that existed in the central part, the very depth of his heart from eternity, or in. I don't even like using the word from eternity anymore, in
Right.
eternity, because that's where we live, in him.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
our home.
Do you think that living in Him and meaning that He is eternity, that is the description? We're always looking at eternity. We're always looking at what that means, what being eternal. But He is eternal. Living in Him is living in eternity.
I absolutely believe that. I believe that one of the things that Abba is doing right now, he is walking us into timelessness.
Yes. Come
That he's
on.
walking us into timelessness. That he is patient, and it's a journey. He has been journeying with humanity for millennia now. And that he is walking us out of the notion of being mastered by time into the initial conceptualization that he had for us, which was to be masters of time,
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
not subject to it. What was,
I
okay,
agree.
look at this, Dr. Bill. Sidetrack here just a little bit, but this is important because it has to do with living in the light, the creative relevance of the light source. And that's this. What were some of the when we go back and look at some of the Sumerian tablets and the Ugaritic writings, what are some of the very first things that we find out about humanity, the gods that they served? What was one of the very first gods that we see? It was the god that became Ra in Egypt, or the sun god, right? The sun god. Now, fast forward to 2024. Our calendar, every day that we manage a calendar, every day that we look at a clock, we are, in a sense, worshiping a sun god again.
Yeah.
Because we have a solar calendar. That's what determines our days and our times and our seasons. In our mind, we are living according and worshiping, if you will, a lot of us, or have been in the past anyway, we have worshiped the sun god called calendar. And I truly believe that Abba is giving us this revelation of the gospel of immortality. He's brought to light the gospel and the life and immortality to light through the gospel. That he's walking us out of the present evil age, which is being ruled by time, into the substantial reality and existence of what I call the now dimension of eternity, the superior reality of the now dimension, where time ceases and is no more. And we aren't controlled by time, but we are the masters
Yes.
of time.
I heard it said that God did not create mankind because he needed relationship. But you have a statement here which would contradict that. That says love in its truest form cannot exist in isolation. And
Right.
God being love, and his whole motive was love for the purpose that he created creation to begin with. And he cannot, I mean, to say God can't exist is not the point, but he cannot exist in isolation, or who he is cannot exist. His character and nature cannot exist in isolation.
No, absolutely not. Like you said, love in its truest form. Let me read my note here. Love in its truest form cannot exist in isolation. It necessitates another being, a subject upon which to bestow its boundless capacity for affection, empathy, and understanding. Like a dance between two souls, and I get a little bit cheesy here, like a dance between two souls, love requires a reciprocal exchange of emotion and a shared vulnerability that allows it to blossom and thrive.
Yeah.
It doesn't just want, it requires, Bulomai requires that. This love dream that Abba's had, that we can't put a finger on. We can't say it started here. We can't say it started there. We can't say it started with Abraham. We can't say it started with Moses. We can't say it started with Adam. We can't even say that, because this is not just simply part of God. This is God that we're referring to here. This is a nature that cannot be separated from his existence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Dr. K. Fairchild just said it. Time no more in Revelation denotes no more intervention of time. That's exactly what it is. And I believe that really, literally, right now, this is my thought, that he is constricting time to the point that he's bringing it to nothingness in our eyes.
Don't be squeezed into the mold of this world's
Thank you.
system, the
Thank you.
scripture says.
Yes.
But we're being squeezed into God's system of timelessness.
Yes. Yes.
Mm,
Yes,
mm.
Dr. Bill.
Yeah, that's the continued molding when we're experiencing the human condition, and it's like when Adam and Eve were exed from the garden, they were being pulled out of one thing, but the door or the light was open to the path of the tree of life. We're being pulled out of one thing, shown back to the realm of reality, as it were,
Yes. Yes.
supernatural reality. That's good.
Supernatural reality.
Yeah.
That's 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 what I refer to it as. The kids here that all the whole big group of them, they you can, if you ever got to see with the whole bunch, Dr. Bill, and sat
Mm-hmm.
around, you would hear them say these words. You'd
Mm-hmm.
hear them use the term superior reality and now dimension. You'd hear them use those words
That's
quite
good.
often. I mean, even down to the 10 and 12-year-olds, you would hear that. That's
Mm.
we are I firmly believe that. And I don't, this to some people, Dr. Bill, seems revelatory, deep, whatever word you want to throw on it. But the fact of the matter is, when I get a hold of the 10-year-olds and can teach them this,
Mm-hmm.
that it falls on their little ears just as easy as a dove landing on a shoulder. They get it. They don't, it's not even hard for them. And I think one of the beautiful expressions is because they understand that, as I said here, without another, love is muted, and that beautiful sentiment, even that exists between parent and child, it becomes trapped in this confines, like I say, at the confines of a solitary heart. It becomes
Right.
trapped
Right.
in the confines of this solitary heart. So it's muted and it's yearning for expression, for the opportunity to flow out and to intertwine with the essence of another.
Yeah. Now, since we're about out of time, do you want to touch on point four, love's divine generation, anthropology, and the word of truth?
Woo! Um,
You probably don't have time for that, do you?
no, I don't. I don't really have time to do it justice. We could.
Okay.
I'd be happy if you want to do another Thursday night meeting. I think I've got a few Thursday nights. I really am not booking a lot on Thursday nights right now because I'm so busy the rest of the week. But so if you want to do another, if you got in the next few weeks, if you want to do another part, I'd love to come on and talk about that, about,
We'll come up with something.
yeah, the divine generation. It's called Love's Divine Generation, Anthropology and the Word of Truth.
Hmm.
It's a, it's a,
Um,
it's a powerful word. It really, yeah, it really is.
we have a friend that's made multiple trips to Africa, East Africa mostly, Dr. Jimmy Lewis, and he says that African brothers and sisters pay no attention to the beginning or the ending of time for services, totally up to God. But they did literally
Yeah,
there's no start and there's no end. I mean, it's just go and go and go. To us Westerners, it'll wear you down.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, once again, because we have been so subject to the confines of time,
yeah.
uh, we have created. Think about this, Dr. Bill. We created scheduling
Hmm.
of the basic human needs of eating and sleeping. We created scheduling for that and tried to get everyone in that system to conform to that schedule. We
Yeah.
eat 3 meals a day at this certain time. We go to bed at this certain time, sleep to this certain time, and get up. But what if we lived a life that we actually just slept when we were tired and needed to sleep?
Hmm.
What if we actually just lived a life where we ate good food and we ate when we were hungry?
Hmm.
And that meant if I was hungry twice a day, I would eat. But if I went 36 hours without eating food, well, I'm not necessarily skinny, so I'm not going to die. I can tell you that. So I went 36 hours without eating food because I wasn't hungry. Or what if one night I needed sleep and I slept 10 hours, but that 10 hours that I got one night did me for a couple of days, and I was able just to sleep 2 or 3 for after that, and still be energetic, still be fine.
Hmm.
But because of the system that we live in, we are constricted and confined. And what we don't realize sometimes is we confine God theology, we confine our relationship with Him into a box called time.
Yeah, it's easy to do. Yeah,
Easy to do. But once again, He is negating those lines of demarcation, Dr. Bill,
yeah.
by way of revelation and by way of relational and experiential knowledge, knowing the love of Christ that surpasses mental assent. He's patiently enduring and walking us into the absolutely elevated place, the station where we dwell in Him and live in the fullness of that knowledge.
In my photo gallery on my phone, I keep this quote by Albert Einstein. He's credited with saying the only reason for time is so that everything doesn't happen at once. And he also said that time is a variable that depends on gravity and speed,
Yes,
and that the distinction between the past, present, and future is an illusion.
yes, absolutely it is. We have the science now, Dr. Bill. What's funny is that a lot of people that are Christian that believe they don't want to talk about it. But the matter of fact, do you realize that in 1931 that there was math that proves now there was a whole group of physicists that was amazing during that era, Schrodinger and Einstein being two of them.
Mhm.
But we had another German mathematician that was brilliant, just as really as probably as brilliant as either one of them, that come up with the idea and proved it mathematically that what we call as axiomatic progression, which is what time is, by the way, time is an axiomatic progression, ends at some point. There is a faltering place for even mathematics in trying to prove the existential reality of quantum fluctuation. Math itself even fails, but it fails at a point even that to where it's recognizable that there's still more out there, but it fails because anything that tries to carry axiomatic progression, which is what we also know as religion, by the way. Anything that tries to maintain itself under the power and authority of axiomatic progression always fails. That math was proven in 1931, Dr. Bill.
And the word religion itself, in its origin from the original Latin language, actually means, is defined as a return to bondage.
A return to bondage.
And something else mathematicians have discovered. Now, hear this, everybody. Next week on Kingdom Dynamics, Dr. Kay Fairchild will be on. She's going to be talking about understanding Aramaic. So
Yes,
we're going to get a lesson in that.
I like if you can actually see that whole row of books right there. I
Yes.
have every I have every book that Dr. Rocco Eric or am I saying his name backwards? Dr. Erico and Dr. Lamsa did together on the uh, Aramaic scriptures light. That's a $600 set right there that was just gifted to me, and it's a tremendous, tremendous,
And
tremendous, tremendous gift.
I'm looking for an online program, and I'll pay for one somehow. I've got to get a hold of one. But but something that mathematicians have figured out that are those that do mortality ratings and things. Here's something I want everybody to listen to this. It has been discovered that if we would eat right and we would stay away from foods that have additives and different things put on them, and we just take care of ourselves. We are supposed to. Now, listen to this, everybody. We are supposed to be living in the neighborhood of 150 years. That's supposed to be the human condition. 150 years. Now, I don't know anybody I've only tracked one person that's lived close to that in the last 100 years. A lady in Romania lived to be 145 years old, I believe. A lot of people live in 120, and so on. And today it's even doubted that people will make it to 100. Well, I want to tell you something. Our thinking is totally wrong. We're
Yes.
supposed to be living long life. We're supposed to be living long life in terms of biblical, in a biblical sense, where they lived hundreds of years. We're supposed to live long life. Long life means long life. If you look at Psalm 91, verse, I think it's verse 16, that says, he says that he will satisfy you with my salvation, or with long life. It's Yeshua is the word there.
It is
Uh,
Yeshua. Yes.
yeah, satisfy you with long life.
Dr. Bill, I was going to say something that you
Yeah, please.
just hit on right there. Uh, Let me gather my thought. I had a thought that I wanted to. Oh, it escaped me. I got to thinking about Psalm 91. Never mind. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. I hope it comes back to you. Dr. K just put George M. Lamb's Bible online translated
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Aramaic into English.
Yeah. That's what I've got. I've got a couple of them up here, and then I've got a whole set of. I love Dr. Lamson and Dr. Rocco Erico's work.
Hmm.
It was fascinating, fascinating stuff.
Well, if somebody out there knows the link to the online program for Aramaic, send it to me, inbox it, or put it wherever. It's fine with me. I just need to access it. I'm always downloading books on Kindle and things, even those I have to pay for. But this is very very important that we understand the languages of the ancients, because those were the languages that gave us our proper biblical interpretations, those that were spoken from the Father's heart, not things that have been hashed over and twisted and things. That's not what we need, folks. Someone asked me one time, do we all need to understand Hebrew and Greek? My answer is that, yeah, really, yes, we do. We need to understand things more than our English language.
Yeah.
So, um, thank you for being on tonight, Bishop. Everybody watching, thank you for being on. Please
Yes.
click
Thank
like.
you, everyone. Yeah.
Yes, we love you. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Hey, join me in the morning. Somebody brand new is to an online sense is going to be joining me. Pastor Kat Thompson,
Oh,
one of our students and professor, yeah, upcoming professor in the next term, and also is someone my wife and I have had interaction with and known for quite a number of years now. Her and her dad and different things they've been involved in, and so she will be
she's been a
joining me.
student of mine for 2 years, for two
Yeah,
terms now, Dr.
yeah,
Bill, and I've gotten to know her. She's part of the Mighty Network, and I mean, you guys will love Kat. Pastor Kat is amazing.
yeah,
She's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So anyway, everybody have a great evening. We'll see you real soon. Join me in the morning, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Good night, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye bye.